Hei, dag Heidi. Recording in progress.
Hi, welcome everybody. Apologies, it's a committee section challenge. They miscalculated the minutes for the processing of this afternoon's plenary sitting. It's not happened before that I can recall. So on behalf of the whole committee, we apologize to the stakeholders in particular, and National Treasury obviously understands. So we are here. Have we got any apologies in Kuleleko?
Hi, Chair. No, I did not receive any apology.
Okay. And then can we get started? You'll recall that we said to CISA by 3 p.m. today if they've got any further submissions or they want to clarify, because we couldn't work out why they were raising the issues they were when they've been addressed in different forms and in different parts of the process. So, CISA, can you take us through your latest submission where you said some things have not been addressed? Fine, over to you, CISA. We also have a submission from a new stakeholder who didn't meet the requirements of making a request for oral submissions by Thursday last week. This is not good, really, but we didn't want to turn the person down and the organization down. So you've got their submission. It will be here with you, and we'll consider them next. Okay, Asisa, not more than 5 to 10 minutes, really, because you've been here before and you had an option last week and you chose not to exercise it. But fine, we are where we are. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I'll just highlight a couple of things that we believe have not been addressed in the 2024 bill. The first issue is the ceasing to be a tax resident after 1 March 2021. And this is really about protecting our vested rights. The drafting, a pension provident and preservation fund members' current rights to an immediate withdrawal will not be retained in the two-pot system, contrary to what was confirmed by Treasury when they presented to the National Assembly. It is a drafting wording error that we believe can be fixed. Exclusions from the two-pot system. We provided Treasury with a list of funds, such as funds in liquidation or dormant funds, and not all of these funds are excluded in the 2024 bill. What is very important for our members is that it be clarified in the legislation that the various components exist on a per contract basis and not a per fund basis. Treasury accepted that in the National Assembly. It's not in the 2023 bill, but it's largely been achieved in the 2024 bill, but some changes are still required. Another drafting issue where Treasury has made some amendments, but not in all instances, is the use of the words member and employee. So there's still some corrections necessary there. As far as non-member spouse transfers is concerned, the member's pension interest should be split across the non-member spouse's 3 components in the same proportion when there's a divorce. Then on maintenance awards, the 2023 bill provides for reductions in terms of Section 27D of the Pension Funds Act to be taxed under the second schedule. This is correct for all Section 37D deductions except maintenance awards, which are taxed under Section 711 of the Income Tax Act. The 2024 draft bill attempts to correct this, but unsuccessfully, creating a further problem in the process. So those were the biggest issues, the differences between what is in the 2023 RLA and what is purported to be corrected in the 2024 draft bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasury, do you want to reply to that before we invite people from the committee to speak? Treasury.
Afternoon, Chair.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you for the comments. We can consider those comments and look at them. I'm not sure how easy it is to make all of those changes, but I can defer to my colleagues as well. But we'll obviously trying to get these things right and get them in line with what we had said we would do in terms of the response document. If there are technical changes to be made, we will make them. Thanks. And Shlanshla, I don't know if you want to come in as well.
Yeah, we would prefer, I know you got it at 3 o'clock. Firstly, Asisa is at fault here, not you. I cannot understand what they're up to, really, to be fair. You come here and you say, well, these things, and then we ask you, what do you want to say? And then you don't say much in the hearings. And then you come here now suddenly at the last minute, given the way things panned out. You were free to speak on Friday. That would have given Treasury the chance to respond by now. So it's not fair, Sisa. You need to also wake up, Again, this morning also, you criticize us as Parliament, but I found that many times civil society doesn't come to the party. And in your case, Asisa, you had no excuse not to make this presentation on Friday. But fine, National Treasury, we are thinking of meeting at 2 o'clock tomorrow. So I think that we can give you till then, but do you need a lot of time to look at this? These are things I raised with you before, Asisa did.
It's a bit difficult to tell, Chair. The one thing I would like to tell Asisa is that, every year we do try to make technical amendments to the legislation through the regular legislative process where things are not exactly right. We do fix them later on, even if we try and get the policy right up front. There are always little intricacies in the tax legislation, which we do try to fix. Sometimes we can't fix everything in the first go if it is too difficult. We will try and do what we can here, but I can't promise that we would be able to fix everything by tomorrow. Thank you, Chair.
You see, the issue here is then we'll have to meet on next Tuesday then. That's fine. But how important, how big are these issues? You see, the revenue law bill comes to us every year. I'm not very sympathetic to Asisa's behavior here. They're not some small emerging unit somewhere. They're Asisa. This is really unnecessary what's going on here. And I hope the incoming chair and committee won't allow this in future. This is really wrong. I'm really irate about it, and I have a right to be. But having said that, your first response as treasuries, are these major issues?
And Shaisha, would you be able to come in perhaps?
Is he connected? By the way, I'm also battling it. I'm having intermittent problems. I see Adri's hand is up, but we'll come back to her. The questions are being put to her also. Your colleague's not here. I can't see, or he's not able to
Right, I
connect.
can see him, but maybe he's just struggling to
Yeah. I mean, also, my thing is freezing and so on. I don't know if it's related to the broader problem, but for now, I'm okay. All right. Questions from members, please, on CISA's presentation.
Chair.
Yeah.
Before members, I see there is a hand from Asisa.
Yeah, they had their chance to speak. They must now listen to us. And then we will hear from them. The
Okay,
members
Chair.
are now speaking. Where are the members?
Yes, Mr. Ryder.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, surprise, Chair. Yeah, look, I must say I'm a little. Certainly, I see your perspective, Chair, and it would have been very helpful if we had this information on Friday. I do know that Asisa said that, because of the 2014 bill and the previous version, they were busy checking the differences, etc. Having said that, though, Chair, I do think we need to have we need to pass a bill that is as correct and as useful as it can be. And I certainly sympathise with Chris. I think he's also in a difficult position because it was a short presentation from Asisa, but it's quite impactful and raised some key issues. I mean, I haven't applied my mind to them. Certainly Chris hasn't, and I think it would be quite difficult for him to respond on the fly. And I do understand he needs to have a look at the knock-on impacts and the implication of what's being said. So, Chair, I thought we'd be in a position to move forward this afternoon. It appears we might not be, and we may need to therefore give Treasury an opportunity to kind of really deeply evaluate what's been submitted, and perhaps have a chat to Asisa and just get if there's anything else to add. Or, as I say, the presentation was very brief, but I think quite far-reaching. So yeah, I don't know what else to add beyond that, Chair, other than I don't really have in-depth knowledge of or understanding of what the implications are of Asisa's inputs.
Okay. Anybody else wants to raise anything? No. All right. In that case, can Asisa reply about this clumsiness of yours?
Yes, Chair. The clumsiness comes about with the timing perspective and the urgency with getting the legislation passed so that the two-pot system can be implemented. We were aware when this bill was published on the 1st of November that it has deficiencies that needs to be corrected so that the two-pot system can be implemented efficiently. That is why we made the Annex C submission that we've also provided to this committee, to Treasury, in November last year. We have discussed it with Treasury. Subsequently, they issued a draft bill to address the deficiencies that we identified and discussed with them at the end of last year. The timing is difficult because the 2023 bill is in Parliament and we are already looking at a 2024 bill to fix this bill that is currently before you. I think if I have to summarize, if it is possible, that if amendments can be made now, I summarized the differences between the 2023 bill and the 2024 draft bill that we believe should still be addressed. We can deal with those when we deal with the 2024 draft bill when it comes to Parliament. On this specific bill that is before you, I think the two biggest issues is probably the sorting out of the directives that will be required from SARS, and also clarifying that the components must work on a per contract basis. If I have to highlight two major things, that is corrected in the 2024 bill, but it will be useful if it is corrected now, so that when this bill is passed, that is clarified so that the two-pot implementation can happen as soon as possible. That is the only reason why we approached it as we did. We thought it would be possible to make amendments in this committee, and that's why we made the submission that we have discussed with Treasury. Yeah, so the difficulty for us is in the timing. There's a bill that is fixing a bill that's not yet passed. So that is the reason for our submission at this stage. I'll be happy to clarify further if that is not clear.
Well, I don't understand what you're saying about the process. What's happening is normal. A bill goes to the National Assembly. They have every right in terms of the Constitution to make changes, which they did. So it's the same bill with amendments. It's not like a new bill. So the first question to you is, you put the same issues that you're raising now to the National Assembly and they rejected it, or are these new amendments you're proposing?
No, these amendments did not go to National Assembly Committee. That their bill was already approved at the end of last year when we drafted these proposed amendments. If I can just maybe recap, this bill, usually legislation would be published to fix legislation that was already passed. In this case, Treasury has published a draft bill to fix a bill that is not yet passed, and that is why the timing is so difficult for us.
You're referring to the pension fund bill?
No, I'm referring to the Revenue Laws Amendment Bill.
I don't follow what you're saying. As far as I can see, it's the same process. Okay, let's not belabor the point. Yeah. I don't follow what you're saying. Maybe other members do, and one of them, Frank, can explain to me, the advocate. I don't follow what you're saying. All right. So, because you speak of terms we're not familiar with, the 2014 bill and the 20... There's one bill that went to the NA. It's been amended. It's come to us. And you have every right to raise yet again what you might have in the NA. You have a right to come here. And though this is not a 76 bill, nothing stops us from making changes. But as you know, because it's not concurrent, they can just reject everything we say. So you will have to persuade them if we agree to the amendments you are having presented to us. Fine. I think, colleagues, it's not possible to meet tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We shall meet next week, Tuesday, because it gives Treasury more time to respond. Or do you, Treasury, think you can respond by 2 o'clock tomorrow?
No, thank you, Chair. I mean, maybe I can just come in a little bit on the comments from Asisa. I mean, I do agree with what they're trying to say. I mean, they're saying we put forward this 2023 RLAB, which was then tabled and has been going through the parliamentary process because it needs to get through quickly to get the two-part system in place. But after that November draft, there were some comments to say, well, the system could be a lot quicker and more efficient if we change some of the directive criteria, and we did a few other things, which we are then proposing in a new 2024 RLAB, which is not, it's a completely new bill to try and improve it and make it more efficient. Now, ideally, it would have been great to put all those amendments in the 2023 RLAB, but it's very difficult to do that because we would have to make quite significant changes to this bill, which is really needed to get through to enable the implementation of the system originally. So we think it was okay to then do it in that 2024 RLAB and hopefully deal with it before the system comes into place, but through that next bill. So I understand where Assis is coming from. I don't think it's not a it's not going to derail the whole new regime if we don't include these things in the 2023 bill. It would have been nice, but we don't have to. My colleagues can come in. I don't know if SARS or Nshansha want to come in as well on that, but that's my understanding on these issues. I don't think we need to then, if those are the two main ones, I don't think we need to delay the meeting till next Tuesday, because we have considered it and it is in that 2024 bill. But I'm welcome to hear other views. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, I think you're being a bit clearer now. I see how different this is from the normal process, and why the terms that Asisa is using actually have a different resonance from what I understood it to be when I heard Asisa speak. But you've thrown it open to your colleagues. Let's hear from them, and then the members need to come in. Does anybody from National Treasury want to say anything? No.
Okay.
Sorry? Yes,
No,
go ahead.
Chair, yes, Chair, apologies earlier. I wanted to say that I do concur with what my boss is saying, Chris, on this issue, because that would be way much better to try at least then finalize the 2023 and then look into the 2024 then, because even at the moment, this bill, the 2024 RLAP, is not even in front of the Parliament at the moment. Thanks, Chair.
All right, I see what you're saying. Fine. Now, this is a very unusual issue confronting us since 2014, when I entered reluctantly this portfolio of finance. Does anybody have a view from the committee about what we do? Firstly, my own view is, if Asisa's comments have merit, I don't see why we shouldn't process them. It will save you the bother later down the road. Maybe not all of their submissions are fundamentally important, but you can identify with them which are. So that's what I would prefer, but I don't know what other committee members feel. Let's just do it. Look, we had been taken by surprise by Asisa, and now there's somebody new as well. And maybe it's not realistic to think we can vote on the bill tomorrow. So it's not the end of the world. We can vote next Tuesday. In any case, there's still a pension bill to come. So what are members saying? Can we be guided? I don't have a very specific view. I have my own view. I mean, I do have a specific view, but I'm not sure whether it's the right thing to say. I don't know if the majority agree with me. So what is the proposal from committee members? Yes, Dennis, the minutes.
I always prefer to fix things early rather than after the fact. So I really would like to hear from Treasury how much panel beating is needed in order to, if we're in agreement with the CISA, how much panel beating is needed to the current bill. It would be best to pass a bill that's not a placeholder. The understanding that there is another bill on its way through already. We haven't had the benefit of seeing that yet, but I think the ball should really be quite squarely in Treasury's court at the moment. And while I hear CISA saying, it would be best to fix things now, I think that's always the case. Perhaps the team from Treasury can convince us as to why we need to push ahead. Pass a semi-flawed bill for the sake of having a placeholder and maybe getting some other things in place. But we would need some convincing of that, Chair. So, I think you and I are pretty much on the same page. Thank you.
Treasury, do you want to reply quickly, please?
No, thank you, Chair. I mean, I think from our perspective, it would be nice to have these additional amendments in to give certainty to industry and to, we've put them down as draft already. It's not a tabled bill, it's just a draft bill that we published on our website. It would be nice to have them in. I suppose I'm a little bit worried about what the process is for amending a money bill from the select committee side, do we need to follow that Money Bills and Related Matters Procedural Amendment Act and everything that comes with it? Nothing here would change the fiscal framework, so a lot of those criteria wouldn't matter, but it would change some of the administrative systems. And SARS can perhaps come in. France, it would be nice if we could hear your viewpoint as well, because it is to do with the administrative systems around this that SARS are going to implement.
That's right.
So we were worried about the processes to follow to get this in now. There hasn't been comment on these, and the comment period on that draft bill we put on the website, the comment period only finishes on the 31st of March. But if you could put it in now and everybody was happy, maybe it's worth it. But we were on the side of caution by putting it in a different bill in order to consult widely enough. Thanks, Chair.
Oh dear. Okay. SARS come in, and then I was going to turn to Advocate Jenkins because the same thing's worrying me. It's not a 76 bill.
So thank you, Chair. From the SARS perspective, it's one of those, it would be nice for us to have the directives issue clarified. But I think that's the key point, it's clarified. So that would be a useful development, but sometimes I do wonder if we're allowing the perfect to be the enemy of the good. And I think your question to Frank Jenkins is probably a very important one, because we'd have to go through the process of amendment and then refer back to the National Assembly. I think it's under Rule 330 for them to concur, and whether we can pull that all off before Parliament rises is an open question that I think we'd need to consider.
Okay, fine. Frank, you want to come in here?
Thank you, Chairperson. Good evening. Chair, the RLAB is a money bill. It's a revenue bill, a Section 77 bill. So we're looking at Section 13 of the Money Bills Act. So, Chair, the procedural constraint there is we need to consult with the Minister. We must be given at least 14 days to respond to proposed amendments before the committee report to the House. So those 14 days could, of course, be much shorter period if the Minister responds quicker and say everything is okay and he wants to continue. And then Section 13 indicates further, Chairperson, excuse me, that, of course, we must include all those, how the proposed amendments are consistent with the fiscal framework that's been approved and how those amendments will comply with Section 8.5. And 8.5 is that those provisions, what I call principles of fiscal discipline, which rarely comes into play if the fiscal framework is not challenged, Chairperson. So just for the committee's information, Section 8.5 speaks of ensuring that there's appropriate balance between revenue, expenditure, and borrowing, and that the debt levels and debt serving charges are kept reasonable, ensure that the cost of recurrent spending is not deferred to future generations, if I may, Chair, etc., etc. So, Chair, that must be in the report. So those are the procedural issues or the challenges that we experience if we want to change the RLAP now, Chair, because of the shortness of time. But as I indicated, if that is what the committee wants to do, it can be done. I think the biggest problem might be the 2 weeks and those will be 14 days, Chair. Let me just quickly make sure. And those are working days, and the Minister will have to respond. But he can cut that short, Chairperson, if he indicates that he's got no problem with it. So it's at least 14 working days to respond, Chair. So that roughly, with the public holidays coming up, we're speaking about 3 weeks. So you'll have about 3 weeks to respond. That's it from my side, Chair. Thanks.
Yeah, Dennis has put something in there. Can you respond to that?
I can, Chair.
Let the amendment refer back to the NA for sign-off in terms of Section 75(1). It's the same thing you're addressing, isn't it?
Yes. It goes back to the National Assembly, and then there is Rule 330. Rule 330 of the National Assembly rules basically requires that such a bill is then prioritized in the National Assembly. So it might even come in handy. I'll quickly go to that rule and make sure I'm referring correctly to it, but I read it this morning after having some discussions around this bill, Chair. So it just means that, of course, it must go back to the National Assembly, and there it will be prioritized. And what the National Assembly can do with it, either it refers it to a committee, unless it wants to just deal with the legislation in the House. I'm not sure if they've ever done that, but it can also be done in the interest of time.
Yeah, okay. So, you know what? ASISA is now saying they're prepared to, if you like, if I understand Adri properly, in the chat she says, what did she say? In the interest of time to pass this bill, they're willing to withdraw their comments. We will work on the 24 bill and engage with National Treasury. Right? So there is a compromise I was going to suggest, which is similar to what ASISA is saying. We have done this before, not necessarily on the eve of an election. What we can put in the report to Parliament is that we agree with the amendments that ASISA is proposing, but bearing in mind the difficulties around the availability of time and ASISA's, let's say, generosity or whatever, or graciousness, I don't know, we'll find the right word. We didn't go ahead with it. But I think in our report, we should say what we think about those amendments. We must put that down and then commit National Treasury to engage before they table the bill this year, and that serious consideration be given by the incoming committee to accepting this thing, and that this report be referred to the National Assembly SCOF. That's a way forward. So, Frank, in the first instance, do you have any comment on that? It's about process and the way forward. It's a policy issue, but I mean, is there anything that I'm saying that is problematic?
No, Chair. If I may stick my neck out or put my hand on the block, Oman, go ahead. If the committee tries to bind the 7th Parliament, if the committee wants to say this must be done in the 7th Parliament, that would not hold water. But the committee is free to
serious
say,
consideration needs to be given.
Yes, that can be done.
Yes, but we can bind National Treasury. Can't we bind, sorry, no, just be specific so I'm clear. We can bind National Treasury to meet with ASISA and settle their differences or whatever before they bring the next text of the 24 bill to Parliament. That we can do.
Yes, Chairperson, correct. That's correct.
And if we say seriously consider, we're not binding the incoming committee.
No, you're not. No, Chair, you're not.
Consider.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's done. That's 100%.
Okay, that's fine. So that's what I'm suggesting. Okay. Now to come back to Adri, is that how you say your name? Can you respond to what we say? And then Treasury, and then members, can we take a final decision on this process? Is Adri not here? Yeah. ASISA?
Yes,
there you are.
I would not disagree with your recommendation. It is in all of our interests to pass the bill. The implementation date is the 1st of September, and we need to do whatever we can to meet that date. It would be very unfortunate if we can't make that date. So if we can address the comments in the 2024 bill, the draft 2nd Revenue Laws Amendment Bill, and we will engage with National Treasury like we have done in the past to sort out what needs to be sorted out before the 1st of September.
Thanks for that. Okay, so can you do us a favor? Can you write half a page on what you would like in the report? Ultimately, it's the committee that will decide on the wording, but the content, in other words, summarize your key positions. What you might help with is say, these are the fundamental issues you're raising, the major 2 ones, and these are other issues that we think should be considered, and then we will put our comments after that. National Treasury, what is your take on the process we are setting out now?
No, we're very comfortable with that, Chair. I think it reduces the risk of a bill not getting through, which would put the 1 September date at risk. So
Jeopardy,
these
yeah.
are nice
Okay.
add-ons, but I think it's probably safer to get the bill through now if we can, and then we can make those
Yeah.
additional changes later. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And then the committee, is anybody objecting to the process or got any compliments of the process, meaning new ideas that can help? Any hand up? I don't see any in Kuleleko.
Hands, Chair.
Okay. Sorry? Everybody's fine. Okay. Now, can I suggest that because from what I understand, am I right, Chris? In the NA, all the parties agreed to this bill. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chair.
Yeah, that makes it easier to process. All right. Having said that, there's somebody here from IRFA. Can he come in, please? You've got 10 minutes at most.
Chair, I'm not
Where's the
going
person?
to. I'm here, Chair.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm not
Yeah,
going
we
to.
sent out your submission. Yeah, they've got it. Yeah, the text. Okay.
Sure. I'm not going to
Your
waste.
submission. Yeah.
Thank you. The 2 points that Audrey raised are the same two urgent issues that we would have liked to have resolved. So we're concurring with what CISA is saying there based on our membership's feedback, on implementation. So based on the conversation, I don't think it's necessary to repeat what is being said, and I don't think we'll add anything in addition to what CISA has brought to the committee.
Okay, we'll note. Maybe you and Adri all know each other, presumably. You all can confirm the draft and say that the CISA and ILFA raised it. In principle, we're fine with it, and then the wording is left to us. But the actual amendments you're proposing in policy terms, and if you've got written wording, that's fine. Send it to us in a page, and then we will adapt it to suit our report to Parliament. Let us give you till, what's today? It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday's holiday, Friday, 12 o'clock, please.
Perfect.
Noon. Good. Okay. Then that said, I don't think, colleagues, we can go through the bill clause by clause at this stage. We'll have to do all of that on Tuesday. In any case, the public procurement bill is not being processed on Tuesday. But I think we will finish with the report and so on in Kuleleko, colleagues, in an hour to an hour and a half. So the remaining hour and a half we can't lose. Tracy must brief us on the pension fund bill, amendment bill. Is that okay?
There's a hand from Mr. Ryder, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Ryder.
Yeah, Chair, I'm happy with that. I just wanted to make sure that we don't forget that comment that I did type up and submit to you yesterday evening. I'm not sure when.
Yes, that's sent around. Yeah. In fact, on that one, Esther's got it as well. Esther, give me a draft, taking account of what Mr. Ryder has to say, and I might reduce it. I think the point being made there. Okay, Dennis, it's better you deal with it. The first thing, I don't know if you saw Frank's reply about the sequence of the bills. Frank will reply to that in a moment. He wrote to me, and I don't think I forwarded it to you because you're so busy on other committee meetings and whatever. So can you go quickly and tell us what it is you feel should go in the report?
Sorry, Chair, I missed that last piece. Won't you repeat that?
Okay, just tell us what your point is that you'd like inserted into the report.
Yes. No, fantastic. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, so essentially it was just a case of the fact that the taxation of the withdrawals in terms of the two-pot system being done at the marginal rates is punitive. And I do think that it kind of undermines the intentions behind why the two-pot system was initially envisioned. And I think we need to remember that, in the old days when or even now, when you're moving from one pension scheme to the other, if you resign or whatever the case may be, you are encouraged to preserve your savings in a new fund or in a preservation fund. And of course, that is then doesn't attract any punitive tax. But if you do choose to take a lump sum out, you are essentially penalised, and that's at the marginal tax rates. Now, I do know in the past that there was a calculation that SARS used to do, where they worked out what your average taxation rate was. and they applied that in certain circumstances where they weren't intending to penalize you for a sudden lump sum that got paid out in excess of your normal earnings, etc. And I think that that would be a far more desirable outcome, noting the reasons and the spirit in which this two-pot system was initially envisioned. So I do think that SARS and Treasury as well are being quite heavy-handed, strong, overbearing perhaps by applying marginal tax rates. And I do think that we really need to consider the man in the street who has lost his income for a COVID lockdown reason, whatever it may be, and now finds themselves needing to access retirement, a portion of their retirement benefit early. Yeah, I just don't feel we should be penalizing those people. I think we should look at the rate of tax at this stage. Thank you, Chair.
Your team from Treasury, Chris, whoever wants to do it, and maybe SARS wants to say something. And we did forward to you what Mr. Ryder sent to us.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honourable Ryder. So on the tax treatments, I've just put in the chat. We did do a discussion document on this at the end of 2021. We tried to go through the different options on the tax treatment side. You know, we think treating it at marginal rates does two things. The one is if you have fallen on hard times, if you then use the marginal rate, your marginal rate will be lower. So it automatically helps those who have actually fallen on hard times. And then if there's no income, the first 95,000 Rand of that will be tax-free because you don't get taxed on your first 95,000 Rand. If we use the previous withdrawal tax tables, they're cumulative over time. So even if you've made withdrawals, but you've lost income now, then you will be taxed, potentially at a higher rate than your marginal rate if you don't have any income for that year. The other problem is arbitrage for those who earn a lot more. So you get a deduction on the amount going into the fund. And let's say you're a very high income earner, you get a deduction rate at 45%. If we were to tax at an average rate or any lower rate, then you could immediately withdraw that money out and arbitrage the personal income tax system by getting that money out at a much lower marginal tax rate. So we're trying to solve two of those issues. We don't think it's penal. We think it's an appropriate treatment for that. We did do those. We considered a whole variety of different options and we got comments on those. And then we landed on this treatment, which the minister then announced in the 2022 budget. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Dennis, do you want to say anything in reply?
Yeah, Chair. I mean, good response. And yes, I do think that someone who has fallen on hard times, their marginal position would be much lower. I get that. I don't know how many people have would be trying to use the two-pot system, as you say, for arbitrage to try and you know, avoid tax. Let's be polite. But yeah, good reply, Chris. I'm chewing on it. Thank you.
Okay, can I suggest something? Firstly, I hear you, Chris. But I'm not like enamored of your reply. I raised it last week in a different form. If you are taking 30,000 and your expectations are you're going to get 30,000 or maybe a few hundred away for tax purposes and end up with, what is it, 15,500, you know, that's quite traumatic, and we agreed. And we should put this in our report, Esther, that we urge all these organizations that are in the sector and National Treasury and COSA to inform their members of what it means. Because somebody might decide it's not worth me taking 30,000 now if I'm going to end up with 15,500 in my hands. So, you know, I think education is the answer. Dennis, you might want to tweak your comments or put them down, and then Chris can give us his reply in a simple language, quarter of a page, and so on. And we'll say this was Treasury's reply. and the committee is asked to consider looking into these issues in the next term or something, so that both arguments are aired, because they might be of value in other issues that we deal with in the next term, whoever is here. Okay, is that agreed? Dennis, can you tweak yours? We've got plenty of time. And
Happy with that.
in Kulileko, can you facilitate also Treasury giving us a reply? Having said that, I don't know there's much more to pursue. Can we bring the meeting to close unless there's something people want to raise? So no meeting tomorrow at 2. Next meeting is at, now we're switching to the 9:30. We couldn't do it for this week because we alerted civil society stakeholders and it's 10 o'clock. So in Kulileko, I'll be right, 9:30 to 12:30 from next week onwards. Till the end of the term. Good. Okay, thank you all for your participation, especially Asisa and Irfa, for your conciliatory attitude. We're grateful for that. And Audrey, I was a bit tough on you, but I see I was rather too harsh. Because I think you're a big, fat institute. Well, fat's not the right term to use politically. You're a big, huge institution. You have the capacity. This is your expertise, your area of expertise, and you could have done it. But I see what you're saying. It is much more complicated and understood. So I apologize for my tone and use of words. I get it. Well, I think I get it. And let's leave it there. And thank you all.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honourable members.
Thank you, Chair.